Hey everybody, welcome to our sugar bush. We've got a nice, beautiful, warm, almost 60-degree day here in late December in Manaway, Ohio, and figured this would be a great opportunity to come out and check our sap lines from last year, and we're actually going to get some additional sap lines hung as well. So we're not tapping trees yet, but what we're doing here is we're getting everything ready, kind of doing the prep work, getting ready on a warmer day to where when it's cold and we're getting ready to tap those trees, then we have a lot less to do when it's a little colder temperature. So really rare that we get a nice warm day like today, and I didn't get to it this fall, so it just kind of worked out. And so I figured we got to stop some of the other projects we have going on and kind of shift gears and move over here to do this. So that's what we're at today. So actually we're standing in one of our sap lines from last year. So this is a run that we had coming off of the tree. This was our in line up here, and it ran downhill and it actually emptied into a catch barrel back in the bottom of the valley down there. And so as you can see, just since this is about almost a year old line set up here, it's just you got limbs falling, bad windstorms, things like that throughout the year. And so this line has fallen, so that's one of the things we're coming out here to do, is get these reset and get ready to clean these lines, and then again, like I said, we're going to hang some additional lines as well. But so I figured we'd bring you along for the journey and kind of show you what we're doing here in our sugar bush today. So let's get to it. So come on with us. All right, so we're standing by a different run that we had started, so we're actually going to start over here because this is where we're going to be putting on a vacuum line. So we've run everything gravity. Last year was actually the first year we did any tubing. Before that, we had always done buckets. Last year, we'll continue to always run buckets. Actually, I like buckets for a lot of different reasons, but there are definitely some drawbacks. Probably the most common drawbacks, or at least for us in buckets, is if it gets too warm, mosquitoes and the bugs start coming out, and then it just gets pretty messy. So with tubing, you don't have that because everything's contained. So there's definitely strong advantages there. But really, in our experience, definitely in our sugar bush, we actually get kind of the opposite of most people. We have gotten a lot more yield out of buckets than we do out of sap lines. So we're hoping to change that a little bit with getting a vacuum, getting a pump to actually pull the sap out of the trees. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're not going to do all, we're going to still do some gravity. So actually we're going to have a combination of all different forms. We're going to have buckets, we're going to have some vacuum lines where we've got a really nice gravity fall, and then we're actually going to do some pumps as well. So this is going to be one of the areas, this area here, this line we had running down into the bottom of our property back corner here. We didn't have very much success at all with this last year. So we figured this is a great place to start because on some of our other runs, they worked really well. So we don't really want to mess with those, but we have not much to lose here because this line just didn't perform very well. So that's where we're going to start. So essentially, again, this is the same section we had from last year. So we're going to reuse that. We're going to get everything cleaned up. But what we're going to do is we're going to add to it any spiles. That's what this is. So the taps that we use to go into the trees, those do not get reused. That we will replace that. We wouldn't want to introduce that bacteria into the tree. But everything else is going to get just clean and flushed out, and then we're going to reuse that. So what we're going to do here, again, same concept. This got knocked off of here. One of the things we do, so I'm not surprised that this fell off, because we actually use what's called a health connection, and that's basically where when we tie this around the tree, we actually just fit this in here like this. So it's not really tight. We do that for a few reasons. One, it doesn't hurt the tree as bad where it's going around there, but also if there is a tree branch or something, or a tree that falls down, it's going to easily just disconnect this, and it's not going to cause damage to the line. So that's kind of the way we go about it. We've had pretty good success with that without any real trouble, mid-season separations or anything like that. But what I'm referencing is the actual connection to the end of the line. So like here, we're going to wrap this. This is this section that I'm holding right here in my left hand. That's not part of the tubing. That's really just our connector. So we want this to be the highest point in the line. And so we're just going to wrap this around here. And then, like I said, I just basically fit that in there. And then that will kind of hold everything tight. So, well, it should. It might have stretched, so we may not be able to go this route with the used stuff. Like I said, last year we didn't have any trouble with that. I also do have it pulled pretty tight down there, so we may have to come back and revisit this. But as of right now, that's going to be the way I'm going to get it set up for right now. And then, like I said, this is going to be our drop. So this we will replace. We won't do that right now because we're going to wait until we're ready to tap the tree. And then I'm essentially just going to cut here, and we're going to attach that new spile. And we're going to do that with our spile or our connector. So that's going to be our vise for that. So we're going to try again to get this set up here. If not, we may have to go a temporary route until we can get like another type of inline connector, something like a hook or something like that. I did not bring any metal up for that, but we might have to go that route here, which is no problem. But I do have a lot of tension on this line right now. Okay, so hopefully we can get that to just hold for a temporary. So that's pretty much it for right now. So that's how we're setting this up. So we want to get everything situated to where we've got a nice fall. So again, highest point in the line, and then we're going downhill all the way down until we get to the bottom, which is where we'll have our collection set up. It's really important that we have that fall, especially on a gravity line. It's not going to be as critical on this because we're pumping it, but again, we do have a pretty good fall on this. But again, ideally we still want to just keep maintaining those conditions. It's just going to help with the process. So again, I think I'm going to have trouble with this, so we'll have to get this situated temporarily to where I can get the rest of that line pulled out and hopefully get enough slack to where this isn't pulling like it is. So we'll try that one more time. There we go. Maybe that was it. There we go. So now we should be good. So again, these are just going to hang here. We're going to get that all cleaned out later. But that's pretty much it on that section. So we're going to move down to our next one. So I'm going to show you the other thing too that's really important. When you're going down through a series of trees like this, you really want it to be, you kind of want to weave it in and out, especially if you're not going to use connectors, which, like I said, there's drawbacks. If I'm putting something like a wire or something tight on this tree, some situations you have to, like this one we might have to. And if we do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that wire inside of this so that, again, I'm not kind of choking the tree. So it's really important you have some type of barrier there. The other reason why I use this, because you could use this same main line, this same sap line, and go all the way around and connect it here and then run that drop there. The reason I don't do that is throughout the year, if this stays in place and a bunch of squirrels are running up and down this tree, or they decide they want to start chewing on this wire because it's attached to the tree, if they do that, that's not going to compromise my line. So that's really important too. So if I came out here and all of a sudden this is all tore up, that's no problem. This is really just a connector piece. So I would just be able to disconnect here, run a new one, and I'm back in business again. So it's not going to compromise my vacuum or cause leaks or anything like that. So that's another little tip. If you're going to use this style, just use a spare piece on this. Don't use your main line for that. Okay. But so when you're weaving in and out, you want to basically kind of get that tension across the line as you're going down through the series of trees to where you're going. You wouldn't want to just carry, just straight down the line. You want to get as much tension on the line as you can. And it's going to help keep everything stable. As you can see, like just as I did right there, you can see that line is got a pretty good tension to it. So it's holding up very well. There's not a big slack in that, big section of slack in that line. So even just this one section, that'll help a lot. And that's, again, with just a health connection. That's not even a really, really tight connection. So we're going to go ahead and move down. We'll move into this second portion here and show you what we got going on in the next one. All right. So again, this is kind of those next series of trees. As you can see, we started up on the top. We came around this tree, and then we're wrapping back around. So again, kind of creating that pinch point. So weaving in and out of trees is really going to help you a lot. So again, that's going to create that tension. Again, we've got our drops from last year. So we're going to go ahead and get those set up here in about a month once we get to the season where we're actually going to tap the trees. And again, at that point, we're going to tap up high, allowing for that nice gravity feed down through here. Again, this is going to be on our pump system, so not as critical, but again, it's just going to help with the process. So we're going to keep moving right down the line here, and that's all we're doing with this is we're getting the slack pulled out of it and getting everything kind of tight and situated again and getting ready for that season. So here we go. Okay, so that line is done for right now. So as you can see, we've got a nice zigzag through there. We've got a nice fall. Does a couple things. One, if we do just leave this vacuum, or if we leave this gravity fed, we're already set for it. We've got the slope we need. So if I do decide to go that route on this particular run, I have options. So we've got a couple back here that I plan to run vacuums on, but it'll just kind of depend on how we get everything laid out at the very end and how many other trees we might want to tap. So I may change plans a little bit, but right now we're set up for either one. We've got the fall if we need it, but we're set up for vacuum too if we need that. So that's pretty much it for this section. So now we're gonna move over to the next. So let's go. Okay, so I figured I'd take a moment to actually just kind of start with some of the basics. And so right now, like I said, it's December. So in Northeast Ohio in December, there's no leaves on any of these trees. The best time to figure out where your maples are located is of course going to be when leaves are on. That's the easiest way to tell. You can figure out by looking at the actual branches and see what leaves are on there. That's by far the easiest. The problem with that is a lot of people don't plan that far in advance. So you know, you're either planning about 4 to 6 months in advance, or you're finding yourself on a day like today where you say, hey, I want to start to tap maple trees for the first time. And then you come out into the woods and you go, or into your yard, and figure out, hey, I don't really know which one of these is a maple. So we'll actually start there with some of the basic ways that you can actually tell by the bark of the tree, or even just looking up into the tree. So one, you can look just below the tree and say, okay, what kind of leaves do I have? That's only going to work though in an area where you don't have a lot of different types of trees around you. So it's not going to be the best method. But you can kind of start there and go, okay, great. I see that I've got a maple leaf here. So, you know, that tells me that we do in fact have maples very close here. But again, I'm just looking down right now and I see maple, I see elm, I see oak. So again, that's not going to be super helpful. But what you can do is you can look at the individual tree. So one, this, it's going to be a sugar maple, and that's the most ideal tree to tap. All maples, in terms of their syrup, it's going to taste exactly the same, so you can mix different types of maple trees. The sap, it's all going to come out to be the same. The difference is the sugar content. So the sugar maple is going to have the highest sugar content, which is going to give you the better yield for the amount of work that you put into it. So that's what we want to ideally tap. But so what you do is you're looking up the tree. These are typically, especially on a smaller diameter tree like this, they're going to be basically a straight line bark. So it's going to be kind of split straight line as it goes up. And as you get toward the upper sections of the tree, it's actually going to smooth out. And you can see it, especially on the more mature trees, you're actually going to see that smooth bark happening a little bit closer down to the bottom. So that's going to be one way you can tell. But actually, one of my favorite ways to tell is by looking at the branches. The branch orientation is going to probably be the fastest way. If you're not just familiar with how to look at the bark and know what tree you're looking at, if you look up, like in a forest like this, basically when you're back of the woods, because they're competing with sunlight, you don't have a lot of low-lying branches. So you're going to have to look pretty high up or grab a pair of binoculars or something like that. But if you look up into the tree and figure out where those branches are coming off, if you look toward the end of the branch, on a maple, you're going to see those branches split off, one on each side. So instead of having those branches kind of stagger, so one splits off here and then it goes up and then another one splits off here, on a maple, you're going to find those ones that kind of V off, one branch right across from the other on the same kind of primary branch. So that is actually probably my favorite way. If I'm not 100% sure based on the bark, if I'm trying to tap a new tree, if I'm like that, you know, I'm not sure if that's a maple or not, then I'll jump to that conclusion. So that's just a quick way, quick reference. If you're not able to look at the actual leaf on the tree, looking at the bark and looking at the branch will help you a lot. So hopefully that's helpful. So we've got our second line run. So we're going to move on from that. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to tap a couple of new sections. So I'll show you kind of that process from the beginning on those. So here we go. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to start in our first, this is definitely going to be a pump. We're going to have a pump on this. So we'll have a vacuum on this line. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and get our anchor point set. And so like I had mentioned earlier, we really want to protect this tree. So what I'm going to do right now, the very first thing, is I'm just going to cut basically a scrap piece of this tubing. So this will not have any sap in it. This is solely going to be a place for the wire to run and basically protect that tree. So now we're going to go ahead and tie up our tree once I get out of these briars. So right now we're going to get our wire, and I'm going to obviously it doesn't really matter which tree you use there, but the least amount of material the better. So we've got a trunk coming off of here, or 2 trunks out of this one, and so I'm going to use the smaller of the 2. So this is solely our connector, our anchor for our sap line to come off of. So that's what we're doing here. So we're going to pull this through, and we'll make sure we have plenty though. We don't want to go too short on it. So that will work right there. And Paxton, can you hand me the yep, wire cutters? Wonderful. Okay, you want to go ahead and cut that for me? Go ahead and cut it right there. Chop. Nice. All right. So now with that, so this tube does not have to be as long as the wire though, because the tubing only has to cover the tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shove that wire into this tubing. Ever so hopefully carefully. The cool thing about a lot of this is even if you can't get to do what I'm doing here on a warm day, making the drops, doing things like this, you could, as long as if you don't mind wasting some material, you could actually do this inside of your house or somewhere warm, back out of the elements. So you can be proactive about it in that way. So if you don't have warm days, hold that nice and tight like that so there's no bend. If you don't have the warmer days like this, that can help you out a lot. So I actually made all of my drops inside, so that helps. So you're not having to be outside because it's tedious. All right, we're actually going to cut that because I don't want to go through. That's going to be the biggest drawback to this method here. This will be our first time doing the wire method, but hopefully we can get this situated. Once it gets so far, it gets pretty tight. And then once you bend it, it's tricky.
You're almost there.
Almost, he says.
Oh, like,
so close.
You're only this much forward.
Okay, let's see if we can do it. We can do it. I know it. We can do it.
So close. We're nearly up to my finger.
Oh, I can't push it anymore. All right, hold that tight. Hold that straight. See if we can do this. If not, we will cut it. But we can do it. I know it. So close. If we can do it, anybody can do it, right?
Yeah. We're nearly up to my finger. You're up to my finger, and you're out.
Yes. All right. Beautiful. All right. So now we're gonna bring this around the tree. Okay. And then now I want to twist this so that it is nice and tight. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to throw this into a drill chuck and twist those wires that way. But you don't have to go to that extreme. It's just the method that I'm going to use since we leave ours up all year round. Now, like I said before about protecting the tree, you don't want this to be really tight. You want it to have slack. Again, all we're doing is making a point of connection. So what we'll have once we're about to attach this actually, but basically we have kind of a hook. So this hook is going to go right on that wire, and we're going to attach we're going to have 2 points of connection here. You're going to have the main line that's coming off of here. That's going to feed into the next tree. And then this will be our drop. So our drop off of this tree is going to come into here. This particular tree, we're actually going to get 3 taps off of that. So you can go up to 3 taps per trunk. And this, even though there's 2 shoots coming off of that, that would technically be what you'd consider 1 trunk. And so you'd only want to pull 3 taps off of that entire thing. So what we'll do is we can get 2 taps on the larger trunk, and then we'll have 1 on the other one. So we're going to have 3 coming in. Those will tie into 1 single drop, which will connect into here. And then again, that's going to feed right into the next tree. So we'll take you through that process here. But then this is just going to, that little hook is just going to hook onto the wire that we just had there. So a little bit more secure than what we had dealt with those health hooks. Again, that was from last year. We weren't really sure exactly how that was going to pan out, so that was the option we went with last year. But with this, I know that once I create this pump, I'm going to leave this in place. So this is more of a permanent solution, if you will. This is going to be a connector we're going to use over and over again. So that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to go ahead and drop that in there. Okay. So Paxton, I'm going to have you do this for us, okay? So let's show everybody how we use the crimper here. So essentially, what you want to do with this is you're going to spread this out. This comes from CDL. There's different ones that are made. A lot of people can actually make them themselves. We just went with this one for our particular application, and it's worked very, very well for us. What it does is it has a line cutter. That I'll kind of show you as we get to some of these next steps. So as you start to cut the middle lines, kind of does all that in one kind of fell swoop. So really, really nice tool here. So in order to get this attached, we're going to go ahead and get our, so we've got this clamp down. So we have our tubing clamped, and actually I want to move that over just a little bit. So our tubing is clamped down, and then we're going to put our fitting. We're just going to push that in, kind of, you know, just get it snugged in there. This is one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this today. It is so much easier to do this job today than it is when it's snowing out or really cold. So Paxton's going to go ahead and show us what we're doing there. So we're just going to squish that together, and you're going to watch that tubing. Just go ahead, keep pushing. Squeeze it all the way to there. Look at that. So that's what we're ending up with. So now our fitting is completely set into the tubing there, and then we can go ahead and release that, and then we can go ahead and pull that out, and that's what we're left with. So that's what we're going for, and we're going to essentially repeat that process over and over, but it's going to be a little bit different, and we'll show you what we mean by that. But so now we can go ahead and hook this on and move right on to the next one. So it's that simple. And again, we won't do anything with this. We'll go ahead and seal that off temporarily for the next few weeks while we're waiting for sap season to kick in. But in the meantime, there's nothing else we need to do with this particular tree until we come back out to start drilling the holes for the taps. So here we go. Like I said, we're just going to hook that on right there. It's going to be a nice secure connection. That's going to give us our anchor point to pull on. We do need that on that first tree. In order to go to the next one, we need to have all that slack pulled out, again, to create that nice, clean line that's not drooping and falling all over the place. So that's where we're at. All right, so we're going to move on to our next one. So this is going to be a line fitting, and this is what we use the most of. So this is where we have, this is kind of a cap off point, but then we have our through section. So basically we have our incoming line from that tree, and then our outgoing line, which is going to go to the next tree, and then we have our drop. So all of these are open. This one's closed. That's what we're going to use right here. So again, we're not going to do anything with our tap. All we're doing is basically continuing this line, because we do need to basically cut this line in order to have the tap in place here. So that's what we're doing right now. And that's where this tool comes in really, really handy. So we're going to show you that process right now. All right, so Paxton, come on over here. And so again, since this is going to be on a vacuum pump, it's not going to matter as much on the slope and everything. We're going to try to get this basically as level as possible at this point. And so what we want is we want to basically stretch this out nice and tight, and then we want to find out where it's going to be at on the tree, and that's where we're going to clamp. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick, and then we'll have Paxton get this set up, and we're actually going to show you kind of close up of what this process looks like. Okay, so go ahead and clamp that down. Okay. And then that's basically what we're finished with. So now, when we pull this nice and tight, we're going to have our drop line right here, which will then go up into this tree. We'll have two taps here, and then we'll be able to continue this around the tree, just like this. So we've got our drop connection right out here. This is sitting nice and flush against the tree. Our point of contact is actually the back side of that fitting. It works out really, really nicely. And again, like we had talked about, we want to go ahead and kind of weave in between trees. So the next tree we're moving to is right over here. So we're able to take this from here to here, back over, and then we kind of zigzag back through there. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to show you that as we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you now is how to make the connection with the CDL clamps. So I've already cut the line, but one of the cool things about this tool is that basically you can do the cutting and the fitting all in kind of one motion. But right now I've already got it cut. Actually, I had already put this together, but I didn't really like the way those fittings were fitting together there. It was a little messed up, so I went ahead and took it back out. And we're going to go ahead and do this again. Okay, so to kind of show you what I'm looking at here. So we've got everything situated, and we're going to go ahead and try to pull this in. We're just going to line up that pass-through fitting, get everything situated here. The key is trying to keep all this level, so you kind of have to hold this fitting as you're pressing in. So I like to kind of use against my knee or something like that. So we want to keep everything straight so it doesn't bend. Okay. And then what we end up with is a fitting that looks like that. That'll be where our drop comes in from the tree, and then this is going to be our sealed pass through here. That's pretty much it. Okay, so we just went ahead and wrapped up this run. And so basically, as you saw here, I did this exact same thing as I did on the other side. So we have our anchor point on this tree. We wound up the wire, we have it run through the tubing, and this is again where we're going to connect our tap. So our tap is going to come into here once we connect to this final maple tree. And then this run goes all the way through here. And so we're going to end up having 2 taps on our first one here, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe even 11 on that one, 12, 13, and then 14, 15, 16 on our very last one over there. So about 16 taps on this run. That's going to be run on vacuum. And as you can see, basically at every connection we have our drop connections right here. So these are already set to go. That was what our goal was and intention of being out here today. So we've got all the kind of this hard work done. And now when it comes time to actually connect, when it becomes sap season, which is going to be, depends on the weather, but sometime either late, the last 2 years we've been able to tap late January, but typically in the beginning of February to mid-February. When we go to do that, basically we're going to drill our hole in the tree. We're going to connect as you saw in the other section of the woods where we had the drops already connected that we're going to cut off of there. We're going to be able to put our spile in up here with that drop tube. It's going to connect right into here. So that's going to be all we have to do. So we'll come out, we'll drill the hole, set the tap or the spile, and then connect our tubing, which again, we can do all of that from inside. So we can do our drops, we can create those inside, and then essentially all I've got to do, drill hole, set the spile, and then connect here. That's it. So really, really simple. We're going to do that on each of these trees. So again, all that heavy lifting is already done. So that was the intention of being out here on this warmer day, so that we could accomplish that. So feeling pretty good on this run. This will be a section we didn't tap this last year, but the year before we did, and these trees produced extremely well. We're over here kind of in this marshy area in the sugar bush, and it just really it makes for a great environment. And then plus we have a south sun coming in right over here. And so with that being, we've got a crop field back here behind us. There's this big open area. When all these leaves are off the trees like this, we really get a lot of great sunlight coming in here. So that warms these trees up, allows that sap to start flowing. So this is really just a nice section of the sugar bush. So we will continue to bring you in as we get to the point of tapping these trees, but that's pretty much it. That's a wrap on running this line. So again, all we really did was map out which trees were going to be connected. We set the connections in place, and then we're waiting on those spiles to be connected to the trees when it comes time to tap these trees. We can't do it now because basically the tree will heal in about 6 weeks. So once we drill those holes, the tree will automatically start to re-heal itself in that cambium layer, and so that cellular layer is going to start to heal the tree, and it takes about 6 weeks to close that hole. And so we really don't want to do that ahead of time. So we always want to wait. You don't want to get too anxious and get too greedy and want to start the season too early, because that just creates problems if the season is a little bit later in the year. So that's really what we're looking at right now. And yeah, we'll bring you back in on the next step. All right, so I'm going to show you how to connect that in fitting. So we're back at the section of the sugar bush that was there where these drops were here from last year, these lines, and that one that wasn't staying up, I'm going to go ahead and put an end fitting on like we showed you on the other side, one that's a little bit more permanent. So the correct way, just so you know, on these, there is kind of a right way and a wrong way just to make your life a lot easier. So right now our pull is going to be like this tree over here is the start. And then we're going this way, so our gravity is feeding this way. So we want to make sure that when we're hooking this way, because we're going to be hooking that hook onto our line off the tree. So we want that to be the pressure. If we go this way, then we're going to have to try to somehow figure out how to get this thing flipped around. It's going to create a lot of problems. So do yourself a favor, get that to where the hook is running the correct way. And then again, just to kind of show you a little bit closer too, with these pliers, the easiest way is to get that to where this is flush right in here, so that when you don't have that wobble in the line. So again, make sure our fitting's going the right way. doesn't matter up or down, it just matters it's going the correct way. And then this, we clamp down on this side to give us a pressure point, and then we can go ahead and get this thing set in there. And we go ahead and push that fitting into place. Okay, and then that's it. So you can see, nice tight fitting there. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna hang this up on this tree right here. So I'm actually gonna go and pull some of this line out of here real quick. So you'll watch me down there. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the slack out of here and get this thing hung up. Okay, and hopefully our measurement, yes, perfect. So you can see we're gonna stretch that, get a nice stretch on it. And I'm actually gonna take this up a little higher. This section might stay gravity, so we're gonna make sure we've got enough fall in this line here, which we do, but the more the better. So we're gonna get this stretched out, and you can see, got that hooked on there really nicely. Again, a nice, strong connection at this point. So that's the basics on that. That's a wrap. We'll be able to get our connection down at the bottom later, once it's time to tap these trees. But at this point, we have now 4 runs ready to go. And we're gonna get a 5th one back in the back corner over here, which we'll do another day. We're just running out of daylight here, so we might try to get a little bit of that accomplished, but we won't get it all finished. But that's gonna be pretty much it. There's definitely other sections of the forest here that we could be getting into. We just won't. And then we do buckets up for the front. So that's gonna be pretty much it for this year. So we'll be pretty excited to see how all this shakes out. So definitely excited to see how these lines run. We're gonna be checking these things for any leaks. Like I said, this one and this section over here just didn't produce very well last year, and I'm wondering if it was a fitting issue. So we're gonna go through, we're gonna fine tune all of that. But yeah, so we're gonna get these gravity feeds. I'm definitely excited about the vacuum line setup, especially because that's in a section of the forest that just does really, really well by itself. So really excited to see that. And then yeah, you know, the goal is that we'll expand and really capture a lot more of the forest eventually, but for now, this is definitely giving us enough yield for the time that we have available for our family. So that's pretty much it for now. But so I'll kind of close out the video here. We'll bring you back in once it comes time to tap these trees. But for now, thanks again for watching. See you soon. Okay, so now I'm actually gonna run another sap line. This one's just gonna be a gravity feed. This was an area that we've done buckets on, I think every year that we've lived here. So we're gonna start with this as our anchor tree. We're gonna end up going really high. So with this being a gravity feed, we wanna get as much fall as possible. There's a fair amount of fall on this section, but the 2 reasons I'm going high with this: one, right where the tractor's sitting, that's actually one of our main paths into the woods. So that's going to be a route that we take in and out of here collecting sap all season long. So definitely want that to be open. So we want to make sure we can clear that, but then also, again, just the higher that area is, that means the more drop we have as we get down toward the bottom. And then especially right after we leave this tree, I'm going to move into a series of 2 other trees that are just a little bit close together in terms of how high they are, and I'm actually going to be going across one and then tie into the other. And so I just want to get as much fall, especially right there, as I can, just to keep everything moving. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one. I've already got the anchor set up on the tree limb, so now I'm just going to go ahead and make my fittings and then start pulling line down toward the bottom of the hill. So here we go. now that it's about dark, I've got this line run. Had a little bit of trouble just kind of getting things situated. Had to also get a new roll of tubing as well, so it took a little longer than I anticipated, just kind of getting everything gathered up for it. But this is going to be a really nice run. It's really straight coming down through here, just really weaving right in and out of those trees. It really worked out perfectly. I was going to go on the other side of the trail, a little bit more fall on that side, but I would have wasted so much tubing on that side, just kind of running essentially a main line down and then laterals going over to connect to it. This makes way more sense. I'm going to get 15 taps on this one with a nice barrel right here. We have a trailhead right behind us here. I'm really happy with this. I'm super excited for this run. So this will be a gravity run, so no pumps or anything. This is just going to be, once we tap these trees, gravity is going to create a vacuum within that line, and it's going to essentially just kind of slowly draw the sap out of the tree. So again, really excited for this. We had thought about doing this last year in this section, but we just didn't really have the time when it was really pretty much almost time to tap the trees. And so we already had a couple of them already tapped for buckets, and so we just said that we would just kind of hold off. And so this year we've got that accomplished. So at this point right now, I'm sitting with, as far as the laterals or the tubing, I have this gravity feed. I have the 3 gravity feeds on the back, and then we've got the other 2 vacuum lines that we just run. I may add one more section, maybe even 2 if I have time. Today's kind of the last day that it's warm, and then things get really cold, and it's just wet and crazy. And I mean by cold, it's going to be like in the 20s and teens, and so at that point I probably won't mess with any more of it. I'm getting a little bit maybe ahead of myself in terms of how much sap production we're going to get anyway, so it honestly might be too much as it is, so we may hold off, but we'll see. I may add 1 or 2 more sections to that existing pump system back there, because the pump that I have set up for it will definitely draw way more than what I have right now. So I could add another 2 sections and still have plenty of space left in that vacuum. So we'll see how that goes, but other than that, I'm really happy with it. And yeah, so at this point, finishing up that one line, we have about 1,000 feet of tubing out here, and then we've just added this section here, which adds maybe another 100 feet, maybe even less than that on the new roll. So we're sitting just under 1,100 feet of tubing, and then we'll have our buckets out here as well. So the buckets will be kind of down in this section, and then kind of running back through the trail that we have here. So we've kind of made it this way. It's really systematic for us, so it makes the collection process really simple, especially with our kids coming out helping us with the process. We bring the tractor out. We've got a nice trailer with a collection container on the back of that, and the kids can jump up on there and empty these buckets, and it's really nice. And so we don't have to spend hours and hours collecting buckets. It's all confined into kind of one space. And so with that, we probably, right now, as of last year, we spent probably less than an hour or so each time we collected sap, which is pretty nice. And that's on about 60 buckets, and then our collection barrels for the tubing we had last year. So that's pretty much it though. So it's getting pretty dark. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up, and I've got a little bit of work to do on the honeybees yet before it gets totally dark, so better get to it, get everything put away and cleaned up. So hope this was helpful and you found it enjoyable. If you did, just a little side note, if you do like and subscribe this, it really helps. We're a family, a small family here on the homestead, and so we homeschool our kids, and this is one of those really important ways that we help to teach our kids. So doing things like this, while it is a hobby, it is fun, and it does put maple syrup on our table and for our friends and family and things like that. We do collect a lot of sap, and we do make a lot of syrup. To us, it's really much more than that. It's definitely an educational moment. It's teaching our kids about hard work. It's teaching them about nature. There's so many things. I mean, we were just out in the woods earlier. My son and my daughter, we just kind of went through the woods on a hike, and I mean, we're seeing things like, you know, the feet of deer, where there was just a deer that was recently eaten probably by a coyote. But those are kinds of things that, you know, we're teaching our kids about the circle of life, nature. You know, we come out, we look for morel mushrooms, we go look for deer sheds, antlers, and all kinds of stuff. And I mean, obviously teaching them about trees and things like that. So there's so much that we can do for our kids through this. And so we hope these videos are helpful to a lot of people that got, you know, we all got started in the same spot. And, you know, these are naturally really helpful ways. I mean, so many people were helpful to me in these videos. And so our goal is to just do the exact same thing. But if you like and subscribe to this channel, this really does help us tremendously. So we really appreciate you watching this, and it makes it even more fun for us to do this when we can share it with people like you guys. So again, really appreciate you, and you know, hopefully you'll come back for the next one. We various videos, everything from firewood to maple syrup. We'll be tapping trees and boiling syrup and all that, and we'll bring you along for that here pretty soon as well. Tractor, forestry work, honeybees. I mean, we kind of, you know, we've got chickens and gardening and all kinds of stuff. So we're kind of on that small scale homestead. We're kind of checking all the boxes on all that. So we'll bring you along for all of it, and hopefully just, again, share this journey with you guys and share the fun that we get to have. And but ultimately, you know, our hope is that you guys are out exploring and adventuring and doing these things for yourself as well. So hopefully this is just a method of teaching and encouragement for you guys to go do it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, because as you can see, the sun is no longer with us here on the hillside, and like I said, I got to get to it. So again, really appreciate you guys for watching. I almost put my knee right here in some scat. So see, another thing that we teach our kids. Wonderful. All right, guys, on that note, take care, and we'll see you on the next video.